I hope you guys are doing well. I want you to go ahead and grab, if you have your menu printed out or any of your recipes, go ahead and grab those. Also want you to preheat your oven. I'll walk you through if you don't have your recipes printed out. I'll walk you through everything, so don't worry about it. Preheat the oven to 400 because we are going to be cooking that breakfast, sweet potato breakfast casserole. And we're going to start with that, and then we're going to go in order of the dinners that are listed. So we'll go and do the zucchini noodles with almond butter sauce. We're going to prep the meat. Then we're going to marinate the steak and get the chard and the carrots ready, and then go into the sheet pan chicken, and also talk about the pork tenderloin and get your cauliflower prepped and your Brussels sprouts. So we'll start by preheating the oven. And then hopefully your sweet potatoes and bell pepper and red onion are already chopped. I am going to be using a little dish like this because it's just me this week, and I don't want to make a huge serving. So I'm going to be using like this little pie plate here. I put a little bit of spray olive oil, and I added my cubed sweet potatoes. I added my red onion, and I added the diced bell pepper. Now, if you read the recipe, it's going to take you through doing it a little differently. I'm all about easy and convenience, and so I'm going to throw everything in together and roast it all together. And then I'm going to bring it out after it's roasted and kind of wilted. We'll add the spinach and the eggs, and then put it back into the oven. So these are... this is my, also, I'm sorry, I'm also going to add in my cubed sausage. If your sausage is not already cooked, mine is. If your sausage is not already cooked, you're going to need to brown that while we're roasting the veggies, okay? So I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to all of these veggies and the sausage, and just kind of toss it and make sure everything is coated nice and evenly. And then I'm just going to add some salt and pepper and throw it in the oven and let everything roast. And I'm just going to let these roast for about 15 minutes or so. Or if you like your veggies a little bit more on the done side, a little bit crispy, you can absolutely let them go a little bit longer. All right, so I'm just going to add a pinch of salt and a little bit of pepper, and just kind of press everything down. And I'm going to pop it in the oven, I don't know, for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes-ish, okay? So while that's going, and if I rushed you and you don't have any of that done, and I do go pretty fast, so feel free to pause the video and take your time and get it done. That's why it's nice to kind of have that playback option and not do it live, because if you're a little bit slower moving in the kitchen or not prepared, it's nice to be able to have this feature. So, all right, so we've got that in the oven, and now we are going to go to our Asian zucchini noodles with almond butter sauce. So we're going to make the meat, which is, you could use ground chicken or you can use ground turkey, whatever you have. I actually had turkey, so I'm going to use turkey. And all we're going to do is dump the meat into the skillet, whichever type of meat that you have. And then we're going to throw on the shallots, which I used like one large shallot, and I just finely diced the shallot. And then it calls for, let's see, I think it had some weird, like a half an ounce, a quarter of an ounce of ginger. I'm going to put about a tablespoon of ginger, and I'm just going to eyeball it. And if you like ginger, add, about a tablespoon or if not more. If you or your family members aren't a fan, I would go light on the ginger. And especially if you're using ground ginger, you want to use even less because it is a little bit more potent. So I'm going to do I'm using this microplane, which I absolutely love. And you can do, kind of microplane garlic and other herbs as well, but I use it the most for ginger. And you can just get that on Amazon. All right, so I'm just going to kind of pat that and let that go on the top of the meat so it doesn't burn first thing on the pan. All right, I'm just going to let that go. I should have probably probably warmed up the pan, but it is all good. My so it's a little funky. Okay, so we're just gonna let that go, and all we're gonna do is brown the meat. While we are browning that meat, let's go ahead and get the almond butter sauce going, which is delicious. And if you have like a little mason jar, that's great, and we can go ahead and make it. Or if you have a little container like this and you want to go ahead and make the sauce, perfect. I am actually making this dish, and I'm going to be freezing it because it freezes well, and my zucchini noodles are already frozen, so I can use this dish and have it later on in the week versus anything else that we're making. I think this freezes the best. So we need our almond butter. You need a little container, which I've got the cutest little jar here. So I'm gonna mix mine here. 3 tablespoons of almond butter, 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos. And then you could use hot sauce. I'm not a big fan, or buffalo sauce if you wanted, and apple juice or water. I'm going to go for the water just because I've had this before and it's great with just water. I don't know. I won't even keep apple juice in the house, so I didn't want to buy it, to be honest. All right, because I knew I'd just use it for that, and that would be it. All right, so yeah, that's good. 3 tablespoons-ish. And then 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos. 1, 2. I'm going to use about 4 tablespoons of water. And then if you wanted to add in your hot sauce, you're going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to leave that out. Okay. And then I'll just stir to combine like this. And then you just set it aside, and that's going to be the topping for your sauce for our zucchini noodles. If you want to make more, if you feel like this is not a lot of sauce, go ahead and double it if you'd like. And then I'm just going to stick mine in the fridge and use it when I need it. Probably Thursday of this week is when I'll get to this one. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to the meat and go ahead and make sure you have it all brown, cooked all the way through. Smells delicious. Yeah, so if you're making your zucchini noodles with fresh zucchini, you can go ahead and do that at this point also. But I like the ones that are already pre-made in the grocery store, specifically like the frozen ones, because it's just so easy to just grab out. And if I don't use them right off, right when I get them, they're not gonna go bad in the freezer. But sometimes I'll get the ones that are already made in the grocery store, just in the little plastic container, and they tend to go bad fairly quickly. So I prefer the frozen over the store-bought in the refrigerated section. Okay, so let's continue to get this all the way cooked through. So once it's brown, we'll just let it go a couple more minutes, make sure it's cooked. You want to add a little bit of salt and pepper as well. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to set a timer for my veggies because I forgot. So I'm going to do it for about, 8 minutes or so. Almost done. Smells so good. And then we will just leave that on the stove after it's done. and let that cool down before you can put it away. I'm going to store mine. You could put it in a Ziploc bag. You could put it in a Tupperware container, store it in the freezer, or whatever kind of container you want. When the breakfast casserole gets out of the oven after we roast the veggies, we are going to add in our spinach and then give everything a nice stir. It'll kind of wilt down a little bit, and then we'll add our eggs and stir and make sure everything's combined. And then we'll throw it back in the oven until it's done. And you know, that usually takes, depending on how many eggs you use and depending on the size of your casserole dish, as to how long it'll take. So whenever it's cooked all the way through in the center and it does not bounce back, or it does bounce back whenever you push in the middle, then you know it's done. All right, so mine is almost done. Perfect. Oh, I got a couple little pieces. Need attention. Okay. And I don't know what type of zucchini noodles you have, but they're super easy to prep. It takes about like 5 minutes if they're frozen. Just pop them out of the freezer, and you can either defrost them in the microwave. You can just put them on the stovetop. I just put them on a skillet, and sometimes I'll put a lid on top of the skillet and just turn it on like medium to low and let it cook very slowly, and then dump the water out and kind of saute them a little bit after the water's all gone and evaporated. All right, so mine is done. I'm gonna turn the heat off and just leave it here and let that go. All right, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the refrigerator. If you wanna label it, you can. If you are into that, go ahead so you remember what it's for. Now we are going to move on to the steak, the sauteed chard, and our roasted carrots, okay? So I have my flank steak, and I'm going to be making this tomorrow because I love when it's just marinated for a day. I think it tastes way better than just 30 minutes or whatever. So I'm going to be leaving this in my fridge overnight, and we'll have this tomorrow. Also, I didn't really add how you the directions to cook the flank steak, but you could either grill it if you're comfortable on the grill. I usually use a cast iron skillet and just sear it a couple minutes each side, and it's done. Sometimes I'll do it just a minute or two each side and then pop it in the oven for a couple minutes until it's done. It's so easy, and it's really hard to mess up. You just don't want to overcook it, okay? So let's get your flank steak in a bag or in a container, and let's get the marinade going. You need 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, and make sure that you are shaking up your apple cider vinegar so you get all the good stuff at the bottom. That's where it's at, the good stuff, it's at the bottom. All right, so 1/4 cup of that, and then 1/4 cup also of, look, I'm measuring, of coconut aminos. So vinegar goes in, and punch it down here so you can see everything. Coconut aminos, this is my favorite brand. It's just Coconut Secret Organic Coconut aminos. If you don't have coconut aminos, you don't really, that's not your jam. You could use soy sauce or tamari. If you're using soy sauce, I would say cut it in half. It's a little bit more potent. All right, 1/4 cup of coconut aminos. And then we're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. All right. Where's my olive? And it could be avocado oil or olive oil, whatever. All right, 2 tablespoons. Bloop, bloop, bloop. There we go. Perfect. All right. Now, next, garlic powder, 2 teaspoons. Then we're going to need black pepper, 2 teaspoons. And I'm just going to eyeball this. Onion powder. 1 teaspoon of onion powder. 1 teaspoon of paprika. And 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. And then that's it. That is done. All right, so I want you to make sure you mix everything. Don't just leave it there. Combine everything and get the steak completely coated with all of the goodness. Okay? And then you are just gonna set it to the side. Okay, so what's going in, what are we having with the flank steak? Okay, roasted carrots. So grab your carrots out. And then we're also having the sauteed chard. So you're gonna make sure you have your chard, and I noted that it was to be destemmed, so if you have all the stems off, that is amazing. Thank you. All right, so for the carrots, we're not gonna obviously be cooking these, or I'm not, so I'm just gonna walk you through how I would like you to cut them. So the carrots that I had at the store were pretty large. So I'm gonna pull them over here and I'll show you. And it doesn't really matter one way or the other. I just think it's a lot easier if they're, that's from a cooking standpoint, if they are, take off the tops, if they're just consistent. So these are large carrots. I'm gonna cut them in half first. And then I'm gonna cut them again. Just like that, okay? Might be easier to cut it this way. All right, and then set them to the side and then grab the others. Actually, the others aren't that. All right, there's my timer. I'm just gonna check. Oopsie. I'm coming. All right, carrots, almost done. There we go. Yep, mine aren't quite done, so I'm gonna pop them in there for another 5 minutes or so. Yep, I think 5 minutes will do the trick. And then we'll come back to those. All right, so I've got the carrots chopped and prepped and ready to go. And I am going to find a container for these because we are not cooking these tonight. Now, the carrots are so easy. You're just gonna place them on, when you are going to cook them, whatever night it may be, you're just gonna place them on 400 in the oven on a sheet pan. And you're going to toss them in a little bit of olive oil, honey if you'd like, salt and pepper, and then roast them until they're tender and done. And that might be 10 or 15 minutes, whatever, however you like them. Just keep an eye on them, make sure they don't burn because they do have that honey on there. You don't have to use the honey, but you can if you want. I don't peel mine, so don't feel like you have to peel your carrots. Unless you just want to. All right, so I'm gonna leave these. They're gonna be raw. I'm not gonna add the olive oil right now. I'm not gonna add the salt and honey and all that goodness. They're just prepped and ready to go. All right, next thing that's gonna go with the flank steak is going to be the chard. And that is one of the easiest, most delicious, just like sides that is out there, I think. I'm gonna get a Ziploc bag and put a little bit, put a paper towel down there. I have washed and kind of dried these off a little bit. This is one bunch. And just taking the stems off, and I'm gonna place it in this Ziploc bag. Now, how you're going to cook the chard is get a skillet nice and warm. You're going to get a little bit of olive oil on the skillet, like, I don't know, a tablespoon or so. And then you could, if you like red pepper, you can add red pepper. I don't. Sometimes I put a little bit of garlic after the pan's warmed up. I put a little bit of minced garlic in the pan, and then I add in the greens and just toss and very lightly saute these. And then you could end up, the very end, you could squeeze some lemon juice to finish it off. You could add some freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Like, there's so much. It's just, it's great just alone by themselves, or you can add some flavor if you'd like. But feel free to add whatever you'd like. I tend to add a little bit of garlic and a little bit of like freshly squeezed lemon juice. Okay, so this is meal 2 done. And I'm going to go ahead and just put this in the refrigerator and have it all organized so I can just grab it all out at one time. Okay, on to dinner number 3. It's going to be our sheet pan chicken over kale and potatoes. Okay, so get that out of the way. All right, this is something also that I am not going to be cooking because it's just really easy. I actually have chicken in the freezer, so I didn't even get it out. But I want to explain to you how how you're going to make this. It's really easy. You're going to preheat the oven to 425 whatever night you're going to make this dinner. You are going to go ahead and and we can make the sauce. We're going to do a little bit of lemon juice and olive oil. Oh, sorry, not lemon juice. Olive oil, salt, and lemon pepper, garlic powder, dried oregano. If you have lemon juice, you could add it if you want. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the potatoes going. So I have these little guys right here, so I'm going to cut these and prep these. So basically you're going to make the marinade, and you're going to get the potatoes chopped and prepped. If you have the baby Yukon Gold, you might want to just cut those in half. But we're going to make the oil and toss the potatoes, not now because I'm not making it now. When the time comes to make it, you're going to toss the potatoes in the oil spice mixture, and then you're also going to put some on the chicken and roast the chicken and potatoes together. Then when they're almost done, at the very end, you're going to add a little bit of the oil and spice mixture to the kale and put the kale around the chicken and potatoes and let it wilt and crisp up on the sheet pan in the oven. So it's a really beautiful dish, and it's also very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and prep the potatoes and get a container for that. And again, let's go ahead and check. Let's check our veggies. All right. Okay, so mine are definitely ready. That looks good. All right. All I'm going to do, and because I don't have a lot of whole eggs left, I'm going to add these egg whites that I have. First of all, I'm going to add the spinach. This does wilt down. All right, so I'm going to use the spoon and kind of toss it around. Let the spinach wilt down. If you want to add cheese here, you can. I'm not big into cheese, but if I had some goat cheese, I would totally add that in there. Or you could add it afterwards as well. All right, now I'm just going to add, if you have regular eggs, you're going to add the eggs in just until everything is covered. Perfect. And then I'm just going to pop it back into the oven and cook it until it's all the way cooked through. Oh boy, I just spilled some egg whites on the oven. That's a mess. Okay. All right, so now let's get back to the potatoes. Oh, you know what? We should probably set a timer. I'm gonna go for about 10 minutes on this, and you figure out where you wanna be. All right, so back to potatoes. We're just gonna cut these and get these about the same size. If you have a, you can use chicken breast or chicken thighs for these. And I have, I think, breast. If they're really, really, really large and thick breasts, you absolutely want to cut them in half just so they'll cook a little bit faster. Otherwise, your chicken's going to take way longer than your potatoes, and it's going to be really annoying. So make sure you get those cut accordingly. Mine are fairly small and they're already frozen, so I'm just going to leave them be. Okay, and a couple more. That is not a really good looking potato. I think I'll throw that away. All right. I'm going to add a little bit of water, cold water, and salt to these potatoes, just so they'll last a little bit longer and won't get all brown and gross. So I'm going to make sure everything's kind of submerged. I might add a little bit more water, and then I'm going to set these to the side. Now on to the kale. This is right here, and I went ahead and washed it, and I took everything, all the stems off of the kale already. I'm going to add paper towel to the bottom, absorb some of the moisture. And like I said, I follow this recipe, but this is like one of the recipes that I do follow to a T. There's not many of them, but this is one of them. And so you will definitely add the kale last because you don't want it to burn, okay? That chicken and potatoes are going to take way longer than that kale is going to take. But make sure you have some oil on the kale before you put it in there, okay? Let's go ahead and make the seasoning that you're going to add to this whole dish. So I'm going to put it in a little container like this. We're going to start with 6 tablespoons of olive oil or avocado oil. I guess I'll use olive oil. I have both today, so I'll use 6 tablespoons olive oil. Let's see where my lemon pepper is. Hopefully I have it. I don't. I'm going to use this citrus. All right, so you're going to use a half of teaspoon of lemon pepper. So that's okay, and then you are going to add in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Okay. Dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, and 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. So 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, and then dried oregano. I should put this bottom down here. It's calling for 1 teaspoon. All right, so this is going to be used for the potatoes, and it's going to be used for the chicken and the kale. So you don't want to use all of it at one time on the potatoes and the chicken because you're going to have some left over for the kale. All right. So I'm just going to make this, and I'll just keep this on the counter. I'm not going to put it in the fridge or anything. And I'll just know that it goes with this dish. Obviously, I think it goes without saying, when you're going to be making this dish, you're going to drain the water from the potatoes and then sit them out on the counter on a paper towel or a towel and let them dry a little bit before you go into making this dish. So sit them out, get them out of the water, let them dry out, and They'll turn out delicious, nice and crispy, okay? So now let's put all of this away, nice and neat and organized in the fridge. Find a spot for it. Lots of green in the fridge. Love it. Okay. All right, so that is our third dish. Now let's move on to our pork tenderloin, our whole roasted cauliflower and Brussels sprouts. Oh. All right, so you want to get out your, well, you don't really have to get out your pork tenderloin, but I'll kind of walk you through with what you're doing with this. We're gonna just sear this pork tenderloin on all sides when you go to cook it, on the night you go to cook it. And then we are going to, pop it in the oven. So with the Brussels sprouts, it says, I think we might say potatoes on here, but yes, it does. The initial recipe calls for potatoes. So if you're reading the recipe, you're like, where are the potatoes? I subbed out the potatoes for the whole roasted cauliflower. All right. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna leave this in my refrigerator, and I'm going to prep my Brussels, and I'm going to walk you through how you make this guy. All right. And it's so good, and a lot of people have not. I mean, I know I really love cauliflower, so I've made it so many different ways. But this is probably my all-time favorite way to eat cauliflower. I know that's a bold statement, but it's so good and it's so easy. And it does take, the only reason I don't do it more often is because it does take like 45 minutes to make. So just to kind of like throw that out there, it does take longer because you're going to put salt and pepper and olive oil all over the head of cauliflower and kind of massage it in. And prep it that way. You want to have a little bit of oil in the bottom of your skillet as well. And I make mine in a cast iron, but you can do it in any other pan or whatnot, whatever you want to use, dish. It just needs to be able to go in the oven. Then you're going to put the salt and pepper and olive oil all over it here. You're going to wrap it and completely let it make sure it's covered with the aluminum foil. You bake it for about 30 minutes, and then you remove the foil and take the foil out of the way, and then you put it back in until the whole head of cauliflower is golden brown. And that might be, it says roast. Yeah, might be like an hour, it says. I have found that it's never taken an hour to get all the way brown, but everybody's oven's different, so it's going to take about 45 minutes to an hour to make this, but it's all right, so I just went ahead and prepped the cauliflower. So I removed all the stems and I removed the core. So you can see there's like a big hole here. When it's all said and done, you just want to like slice it like steaks and serve it that way, okay? So I'm just gonna leave mine, like probably I'll just wrap it in foil and put it back in the refrigerator. And then all you have left to kind of prep for that is the Brussels sprouts. So you're going to just trim the ends off. If you're going to roast them, I prefer to roast them. Some people boil them. I had to eat Brussels sprouts when I was little, and I'll never forget my mom just boiled them, and I thought they were so disgusting. So I just prefer to roast them. But if you want to boil them, go for it. But that is not my jam. All right, and I think that your kids are more likely to eat if they're roasted than boiled. I guess you can steam them. I don't know. Air fry them if you have an air fryer, which I can't say enough good things about my air fryer. I'm a believer now. Just one more piece of equipment that I had to have, but I do think it's worth it. And they're great for leftovers. So if you eat leftovers a lot in your family, I know some people hate leftovers. I love them. They they kind of make leftovers not taste like leftovers. They make them taste like you just made the dish. So that's a bonus. And then, all right, let's check this guy out. Nope, not done yet. Once these Brussels sprouts are trimmed and prepped, and you have your cauliflower trimmed and prepped, you are done. Okay, so I'm going to put these in here, and I will wrap, you know what, actually I could just put this and this together if it's going to fit. Cross our fingers. Please fit, make my life easy. Yeah. All right, so here's the side. Now, if you're like, oh, I don't know, my kids probably need some more substance, grab, you know, maybe add some potatoes or roast some potatoes along with that or whatever, or make some rice or quinoa or whatnot. I totally understand that some members of your family aren't going to be eating all of the delicious vegetables and things like that, and my kids love starches too, so, you know, add in and substitute whenever you need to, okay? All right, so just to kind of go over, we've got the sweet potato casserole in the oven. Yes, mine's totally not done yet. It's almost. So that's almost done. Make sure you have a timer for that. Your meat for the zucchini noodle dish, your almond butter sauce is already in the refrigerator, hopefully. I'm just gonna let this cool down and then I'll put this in a storage container and pop this in the freezer. And then we've got everything else prepped. Your steak with the chard and the carrots, and your sheet pan chicken with the kale and potatoes. And then we just got the pork and the sides prepped. So you are all good to go, and I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions throughout the week, don't hesitate to reach out and ask me at any point in time. Okay? Have a good week. Bye.